Hey guys, tonight we begin with the brutally hot, soot-covered life of a man who quite literally forged the medieval world, the blacksmith. You've probably seen them in movies, hammering glowing iron in slow motion with sparks flying majestically through the air. But trust me, being a real medieval blacksmith was nothing like a dramatic training montage. It was dirty, exhausting, blister-inducing work. And in most cases, it absolutely sucked. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You were born into the noble, soot-covered lineage of medieval blacksmiths. No crowns, no land, no fancy titles. Just the family forge, anvil-shaped blisters, and the scent of roasted iron baked into your baby blanket. From the moment you can walk without tripping into the fire pit, you're expected to help. By age 6, you're officially your father's apprentice, which is a polite medieval way of saying tiny unpaid assistant with zero rights and permanent soot streaks on your face. Your toys, tongs, your playground, a dirt floor next to a furnace hot enough to cook your eyebrows. While other village kids are chasing chickens and skipping stones, you're learning how not to die next to molten metal. Fun games include guess how hot this is with your hand, hold the hammer until your arms fall off, and try not to cry when you mess up the nail again. Your father, the blacksmith, is a terrifying, muscular man whose entire vocabulary consists of sighs, grunts, and the phrase, "hit it harder." He's got hands like tree bark and a permanent scowl etched from decades of smoke exposure and tax collectors. He teaches you everything: how to shape iron, how to fuel the fire, how to keep your mouth shut when a knight insults your work. You don't ask questions. You just observe, absorb, and obey. Mostly because asking questions results in a flying horseshoe and a week of silent treatment. Holidays? Nice idea. You don't get those. The forge doesn't take breaks, and neither do you. Someone always needs something sharpened, fixed, or reforged. You learn quickly that free time is just the time between one job and the next. And while you're technically learning a trade, what you're really learning is pain tolerance, heat resistance, and how to fall asleep standing up. By the time you're 10, you already smell like iron, swear like a miner, and have arms strong enough to carry water buckets that weigh more than your dog, assuming the dog didn't run away from the noise 2 years ago. This is your life now. Welcome to the family business. Hope you like sweat, smoke, and 70 years of back pain. If you thought you'd get a few good years of playtime before the hammer came down, think again. Childhood, in the medieval blacksmith's world, is more of a suggestion than a phase. The moment you can lift a bucket without toppling over, you're drafted. Forget games, toys, or any concept of fun. Your playroom is a smoke-stained shed filled with sharp objects and open flames. Your jungle gym? A rack of tongs next to a pit of glowing coal. One wrong step, and you're getting an unscheduled lesson in how long your skin can sizzle before Dad notices. Your official job title might be apprentice, but what it really means is do everything no one else wants to do and get yelled at anyway. You stoke the fire, pump the bellows, sweep the floor, clean the tools, restack the coal, and try not to get impaled by a falling horseshoe. All before breakfast. You get paid in food, stern nods, and the occasional grunt of mild approval, which in blacksmith language means you didn't completely ruin that today. Meanwhile, the village kids you once knew are out in the fields, maybe throwing sticks or learning how to milk goats. You envy them, even if they do smell like cheese and manure. They might grow up to be farmers or shepherds, humble jobs, sure, but ones that involve fewer glowing weapons and surprise burns. You, on the other hand, are learning to make nails by hand. Nails. Thousands of them. Bent, twisted, and reheated again and again until they're straight enough to hold some lord's chicken coop together. If you're lucky, your father lets you swing a hammer on your own, right after he points out every single thing you're doing wrong. And don't even think about saying, "I'm tired." That phrase doesn't exist in the forge. Fatigue is weakness. Burnout is for candles. You keep swinging, keep sweating, keep smiling, or at least keep from crying where anyone can see. Because in the eyes of your master, who is also your dad, you're not a child anymore. You're a blacksmith in training, and the training never ends. The forge isn't just where you work, it's your entire existence. It dominates your senses, reshapes your muscles, and rewires your brain. By the time you're in your teens, it doesn't just feel like a place. It feels like a living creature, a hot, smoky, temperamental beast that you must feed, control, and fear. You know the sounds by heart. The bellows wheezing, the iron hissing in the water, the sharp clang of hammer on metal echoing like a war drum. There's a rhythm to it, like some brutal medieval symphony, and your body moves in time with it, whether you're awake or half asleep. You stop noticing the heat after a while. That's not because it gets easier, it's because you've simply accepted it, like gravity or taxes. You know which stones get too hot to sit on, which coals burn quickest, and which parts of the floor are secretly trying to murder your feet. Your skin darkens from smoke, not sun. Your clothes, the same soot-stained tunic and leather apron you wear every day, smell like a mix of scorched wool, grease and desperation. You don't own many things, but you do own this forge. Not on paper, mind you. Your father still technically runs it, but in practice, it owns you. You start to forget what silence sounds like. The hiss, the clang, the crackle, it's constant. When the forge does go quiet, it's almost unsettling. You find yourself twitching like you're missing a beat in a song you've been forced to memorize since childhood. Your friends, assuming you've kept any, barely see you. He's probably at the forge becomes your default status. You're not a blacksmith. You are the forge. A two-legged extension of fire and steel. And strangely, a part of you starts to love it. Not the burns, not the blisters, but the feeling when the shape finally comes out right. When the horseshoe fits. When the blade gleams. When the metal bends to your will. For a moment, you're not just a kid covered in soot. You're a creator, a crafter, a necessary gear in the medieval machine. Then the moment passes, the next order arrives, and the fire roars again. Time to get back to work. By the time your friends are just starting to grow into their teenage limbs, yours already feel like they've been through a siege. While they're getting taller and stronger, you're getting stooped, scarred and stiff. Your arms are thick, but not in a heroic knight lifting a sword way, more like teenager who's been repeatedly attacked by anvils. Your back? A tragedy, hunched from hauling metal and leaning over the forge for hours a day. Your knees? They creak when you crouch. Your shoulders pop every time you lift a hammer, which is every few seconds. So now that's just part of your personal soundtrack. And your hands? Let's talk about your hands. You used to have fingers. Now you have iron-tipped claws. They're blistered, cracked and stained with soot so deep, even the Nile couldn't wash it off. Cuts are common, burns are daily, and your fingernails? Half of them are permanently blackened or missing. When someone offers you bread, you hold it with the same delicacy you'd use to cradle a hedgehog made of glass, because every knuckle already feels like it's been cursed. There's no such thing as recovery time. Pull a muscle, keep working. Twist your wrist, use the other one. The forge doesn't care that your elbow is screaming. Iron doesn't wait politely while you rest. And let's not forget sleep. You'd think with a day full of hammering and hauling, you'd pass out easily. But no. Your muscles ache so bad you can't lie still. Your ears are still ringing from 10 hours of clanging. And your arms twitch with phantom swings like you're sparring ghosts in your dreams. You ache in places you didn't know could ache. You smell like pain. Even your pain has pain. And what does your father say about this? Good. You're learning. In a strange way, you are. You're not growing despite the pain. You're growing because of it. You're being hardened like the very metal you work, shaped by heat, pressure, and repetition. But make no mistake, by the time you hit adulthood, Your body feels like it already lived 2 lives and died halfway through both. And the worst part? You're just getting started. In most jobs, smoke is a problem. In your job, it's a co-worker, and a particularly rude one. The forge isn't just hot, it's a choking chamber, and every breath you take comes seasoned with the fine aroma of coal dust, scorched metal, ash, and regret. If you can see clearly more than 6 feet ahead, congratulations. Someone forgot to light the fire. There's no chimney, just a hole in the roof that leaks more smoke in than it lets out. You try opening a window. There is no window. Just soot-black walls, your father's coughing, and the occasional gust of wind that blows everything into your eyes anyway. Your lungs? Let's just say they've entered a long-term toxic relationship with smoke. At first, it burns. Then it irritates. Then one day, it just becomes normal. Coughing fits. Part of the rhythm. Black mucus. Not ideal, but hey, at least it's consistent. You've reached the point where clean air feels suspicious. Even your voice changes. You start sounding like a 60-year-old goat farmer who drinks boiling tar. Words are scratchier, breaths are shorter, and your throat always feels like it's hosting a dust storm. But you keep working, because you have to. And it's not just the smoke from the fire. There's metal dust from grinding, oil fumes from quenching, and sometimes burnt leather, charred wood, or whatever unfortunate material just dropped into the coals. You've probably inhaled 3 different types of poison before noon. Protective gear? Please. A rag tied around your face is the best you can do. And even that gets sweaty, gross, and somehow smells worse than the smoke itself. You take it off, and suddenly it's a little harder to breathe. But at least you're not gagging on your own sweat. Long-term damage? Of course. Asthma, black lung, early death. All part of the career package. But you're not thinking long-term. You're thinking about finishing that gate hinge before your father notices how crooked it is. In the world of a medieval blacksmith, air is just another burden. You don't breathe to survive. You breathe to keep hammering. By now, you've developed an intimate relationship with your tools, mostly based on pain, necessity, and mutual disrespect. Your hammer, it's basically an extension of your arm. You've named it. You've cursed it. You've swung it so many times that your shoulder now clicks when you raise it, like a haunted maraca. But without it, you're just a sweaty guy standing in a smoke-filled hut. The hammer makes you a blacksmith, and also makes you bleed. Regularly. Then there's your tongs, clumsy, hot, and always pinching you at the exact wrong moment. You've burned your fingertips more times than you've successfully picked up anything. The iron slips. The grip fails. You yell. Your dad tells you to grip it like you mean it. You consider throwing them into the fire just to teach them a lesson. Your chisel? It used to be sharp. Now it's mostly a suggestion of a blade, because you've used it to shape, split, scrape, and occasionally pry open stuck doors when your neighbour's lock breaks. Files, awls, punch tools, rivet sets. Your tool bench looks like a medieval torture rack. And honestly, it kind of is. You've been jabbed, crushed, pinched, sliced, and impaled by every item you own. Your fingers have memory now. They flinch at the mere sight of a new tool. Your apron. It's meant to protect you, and it sort of does. If by protect, you mean catch hot metal shards and hold them close to your body like a smouldering hug. It's more scorched than stitched, and the leather stiffens like a corpse every winter. And yet, despite all this, you care for these tools like they're family. You sharpen them, oil them, line them up each night, because if one breaks, you're done. You can't work, you can't earn, you can't eat. No tool, no income. So yes, your tools are your life. But don't be fooled. They've also declared war on your fingers, spine, and sanity. Every day they whisper, "We help you survive, but we'll also slowly destroy you." And you say, "Yeah, that sounds about right." Now pass the hammer. You don't wear a crown, carry a sword, or lead armies, but without you, the village stops functioning by Tuesday. You're the blacksmith, and everyone needs you all the time, for everything. You're the medieval equivalent of customer service, tech support, and roadside assistance rolled into one soot-covered figure who smells like smoke and shame. The knight needs a new sword? You make it. The farmer breaks a plough? You fix it. A monk's bell cracks, a baker's oven door jams, a shepherd's gate latch won't close. Guess who gets called? That's right, you. Every single time. And they all act like you've just been waiting for their problem. They show up unannounced, mid-swing, covered in mud and entitlement. I know you're busy, they say, but could you just? Could you just? The phrase that haunts you. But here's the best part. You never get thanked. They assume it's your duty, that you were born to serve. If their hoe works, their door closes, or their shield holds, they nod and walk away like you were the lucky one. As if you should be honoured to repair their rusty bucket at sunset for half a loaf of stale bread. Payment? Often inconsistent. Sometimes in coin, sometimes in goods, sometimes in promises they forget by next market day. One man paid you with a dead chicken good for soup. It wasn't. You're also the go-to fixer for problems that don't belong to you. Bent hinges from someone sitting on a gate. You fix it. Broken dagger from a drunk fight. You fix it. Mysterious piece of iron no one can identify, but absolutely must be fixed. Yep, still you. Yet, when the village praises anyone, it's the knight, the priest, or the miller with the extra fat goat. You, your background noise, a necessity, a reliable tool, not a person. But here's the secret. You know they couldn't last a week without your work. Their fields would stall, their homes would fall apart, their horses would limp. And while they may not sing songs about you, their entire world is quietly held together by your hands. You'd think peace would be good news. No raiders, no bandits, no screaming noblemen demanding a new sword by sundown. But for you, peace is terrible for business. Because you, the blacksmith, may work on ploughs and hinges, but what really pays the bills is war. When there's fighting, everyone needs you. Weapons, armour, arrowheads by the hundreds. Even horseshoes wear down faster under the weight of panicked cavalry charges. You're flooded with work, the forge burns brighter, the coins roll in. You may be exhausted, but your belly is full, and your debt to the alehouse, momentarily forgotten. But then the war ends. The local lord declares a truce, the knights stop marching, and suddenly your orders vanish. No more swords, no more helmets, just a farmer asking if you can sharpen a sickle, and maybe accept 3 onions as payment. And sure, you can make household goods, cauldrons, door handles, cooking spits, but there's not much profit in it. Everyone wants you to work like a wizard, but they want to pay you like a stable boy. You become a negotiator, a beggar, and a merchant all at once, haggling for decent wages like your forge is a stall at market, and don't even think about raising your prices. People look at you like you just cursed their cow. But you're just hammering metal, they say, as if molten iron bends itself into shape while singing church hymns. You start to miss the chaos. Not the blood, not the burning villages, but the steady flow of orders, the purpose, the rush. When knights lined up outside your forge with dented shields and coin purses ready, you mattered. Now, you're making keys for locked doors no one locks, patching pots that should have been thrown out, and fixing tools so old they belong in a museum, not a field. Peace, for everyone else, means safety and rest. For you, it means economic anxiety and hunger. And deep down, though you'd never say it out loud, part of you whispers, wouldn't mind a small skirmish. Just a little one. Maybe a minor border dispute. Because when swords break, you eat. Some jobs have an end, a clear finish line, a task completed, followed by rest, applause, or at least a warm bowl of stew. Blacksmithing is not one of those jobs. Your work is never done. Not today, not tomorrow, not even in your dreams. You fix one thing, and 3 more break. Patch a gate hinge? The wheel falls off the cart. Finish a batch of nails? Someone shows up demanding 10 more. But longer this time, and also, I can't pay you until harvest. You rise before the sun and go to sleep long after it disappears behind the trees. And even then, your brain keeps hammering. You dream of bellows, sparks, and that one customer who still owes you a half-dozen eggs and a thank you. Even the quick jobs never are. A villager walks in holding a mangled rake. It just needs a little fixing, they say. But you know. That's 2 hours of reshaping, reheating, hammering, and nodding politely as they ask, "Is it ready yet?" every 5 minutes. And just when you think you can finally sit, maybe drink something that isn't lukewarm and smoky, your apprentice comes running. The farrier's ill. You need to shoe the horse. Of course you do, because you're the blacksmith. And around here, blacksmith means everyone else's last resort. The forge demands attention constantly. The fire won't stoke itself. The tools rust if ignored. Your anvil shifts in the summer heat. Your bellows crack in the winter cold. Everything is either falling apart or threatening to. Even holidays don't stop the work. Sunday is technically a day of rest, unless, of course, someone's ox cart breaks on the way to market. Then suddenly, you're in your apron, half awake, praying the priest doesn't walk by while you're hammering on the Lord's day. You don't keep a to-do list. That implies there's a point when it'll all be crossed off. There isn't. Because blacksmithing isn't a job, it's a cycle. Work, fix, repeat. Until your body gives out, or your hammer does. And the worst part, you kind of love it. You'd think that pounding hot iron all day would earn you at least 2 things, a good meal and a solid night's sleep. Wrong. In the life of a medieval blacksmith, food and rest aren't guaranteed. They're luxuries, like clean water or polite customers. Let's talk food first. You work from sunup to sundown, burning calories like a runaway horse. And what do you get? A piece of coarse bread, a bowl of cold pottage that might contain yesterday's turnip, and maybe, a bit of salted pork if it's a special day, which it isn't. You eat standing up, one hand still clutching tongs, the other shielding your food from the forge's ash. Meals are rushed. Conversations are grunts. And if someone knocks on the door mid-bite because their latch is stuck, guess what? That stew's going cold. You don't eat to enjoy. You eat to survive. Fuel in, hammer out. Now let's talk sleep, or the cruel parody of it. When you finally crawl into bed, your hands are throbbing. Your back feels like it lost a bar fight. And your ears are still ringing from a full day of iron symphonies. Your bed? A straw-stuffed sack that's either too lumpy, too flat, or full of mysterious crawling things. Your blanket. A scorched wool sheet that smells faintly of forge smoke, old ale, and regret. And just as your eyes are closing, your brain remembers that order you forgot to finish. Or that hinge that cracked weird. Or the payment you still haven't received for that wagon wheel 3 weeks ago. Sleep becomes a negotiation. You lie awake, tossing, turning, calculating how long you can delay repairs without someone banging on your door at dawn. And don't forget the midnight surprises. Someone's horse throws a shoe, a storm rips a door off its hinges, or a noble's sword urgently needs sharpening before a hunt. Because obviously, you don't need rest. You learn to survive on scraps and snatches, stolen bites, half naps, and sheer stubbornness. Because in your world, productivity comes before nourishment, deadlines before dozing. Food and sleep aren't breaks from the job. They're intermissions between hammer swings. You'll eat when you can, sleep when you're allowed, and hope the fire doesn't go out while you're dreaming. There was a time when your hands were soft. Once. Long ago. Maybe as a child. Now, they're ruined. Your fingers have become tools themselves. Stiff, swollen, cracked, and calloused to the point where they barely feel anything except when it hurts. You can't hold a quill. You can barely lace your own boots. But you can grab red-hot tongs with the casual confidence of someone who's been burned so often, pain has lost its meaning. Every joint in your hands pops when you move. Your knuckles look like they've been mugged by a hammer. Your palms are a map of blisters, old, new, layered like tree rings. Need to figure out what season it is? Just check the blister count. More than 5. It's summer. You've lost fingernails. More than once. Some came off clean. Others didn't. You once crushed your thumb so badly it turned black for 2 weeks. You didn't stop working. You just switched hands and grunted more than usual. Cuts are constant. Sometimes it's a chipped edge. Sometimes a file bites you. Sometimes the iron fights back. Every week something leaks blood. You wrap it in a scrap of cloth, curse under your breath, and keep working. Worse still are the burns. Some are mild, little reminders that iron doesn't forgive. Others are worse, the kind that sizzle, bubble, and leave scars that tell their own stories. You've branded yourself more times than a cattle farmer, and at this point, you're not even mad about it. You're just used to it. Your grip strength is the only thing that's improved. You can crush walnuts like they owe you money. But dexterity, that's gone. You drop things. Your fingers shake when cold. You're 30 and have the hands of a 70-year-old knight who lost 3 wars and now plays tavern dice for soup. But despite it all, these hands are what keep you alive. They shape swords, fix hinges, and hold the hammer that holds your reputation. They hurt constantly, but they work. Because in this life, it doesn't matter how broken your body is, as long as you can still swing. Let's be honest, you don't smell great. Actually, you haven't smelled clean since you were 5. The moment you became your father's apprentice, your personal fragrance took a permanent turn toward unwashed ashtray mixed with burnt bacon and desperation. Welcome to Blacksmith life, where no matter how hard you scrub, you smell like fire. Forever. The forge burns all day, and so do you. The smoke seeps into your clothes, your hair, your skin. Your sweat doesn't even smell like regular sweat anymore. It's more like smoked meat left out during a warm spring. You could bathe, in theory. But baths are rare, water is cold, and you're working 6 days a week, covered in soot, grease, and coal dust before the sun's even fully up. So what's the point? You'd be filthy again by breakfast. Your clothes are no help. You wear the same singed tunic and scorched leather apron every day. They haven't been truly clean since the last festival, and even then, someone spilled ale on them before noon. Now, they just sort of hang on your body like a protective layer of hardened funk. You try perfume? Forget it. It lasts 10 minutes before the forge eats it alive. Flowers wilt near you. Bread goes stale faster. Cats hiss when you pass. And the worst part? People notice. You walk into the tavern and the crowd parts like the Red Sea. The innkeeper already knows to seat you in the corner, near a window if possible. Not out of courtesy, but survival. No one wants to share a bench with the human embodiment of a burnt fence post. Still, you take it in stride. A little shame is better than going unnoticed. You're known. People say, "That's the blacksmith," with a mix of respect and nasal discomfort. You may not be the most charming man in town, but you're definitely the most aromatic. Besides, smelling like fire means you've been working. Smelling like iron means you've been crafting. And smelling like sweat-soaked leather dipped in soot and regret? Well, that just means you're a professional. You didn't choose this life. The forge chose you, through your father's calloused hands, and the iron expectations passed down like a rusty heirloom. And now, you're doing the same. Your son doesn't play with wooden swords or run wild through the fields. He fetches coal, pumps the bellows, holds the tongs steady while sparks rain down and you mutter, "Don't flinch." He's maybe 7, but already smells like burnt metal and wet burlap. You feel a bit guilty, but only a bit. Because you're not being cruel. You're preparing him. This is the trade. This is survival. He watches you swing the hammer, and you see the way he stares. Wide-eyed, half in awe, half in fear. You remember that look. It's the same one you used to give your father. back when he seemed like a mountain. Now you understand he wasn't made of stone, just exhaustion and responsibility. You teach the boy everything. How to gauge heat by colour, how to tap, not slam, how to listen to the metal. You shout sometimes, more out of habit than anger. Hold it right. That's too cold. Don't cry, it's only a burn. You try to soften things when you can. A story by the fire, a piece of dried fruit when you can afford it. But tenderness doesn't last long in the forge. There's too much work to do. His hands will soon look like yours. His back will ache before his voice cracks. He'll learn to sleep through ringing ears and wake up before sunrise without being told. He'll outgrow his shirt, but not the burn marks. And when you finally fall apart, knees, shoulders, lungs, he'll carry the hammer you can no longer lift. People might say it's unfair, that the cycle should end. But this is how it's always been. A lineage of soot, steel, and survival. You're not just passing down a trade, you're passing down a legacy, a forge that never cools. So yes, you raise your son to do it all again. Not because you're cruel, but because someone has to keep the fire going. You've spent a lifetime standing too close to fire, swinging too much iron, and breathing too little clean air. It was never a question of if your body would fail, just when. And now, it's happening. Your knees creak like wooden doors in a storm. Your back refuses to straighten. Your fingers, once strong enough to bend steel, now tremble when you lift a cup. The forge still roars, but your arms won't answer. The hammer feels heavier every day, as if it knows it's nearly time to leave your grip. You don't go out in a blaze of glory. There's no heroic finale, no ballad. You simply slow down. You start handing tasks to your son. You sit more, watch more. He asks you questions, and for the first time, you struggle to remember the answers. The villagers start going to him now. They still nod respectfully when they pass you, but they talk to your boy. He's the one with the calloused hands now. The burns are fresh on him. The ache of the craft has shifted to new shoulders, and quietly, you're proud. You were never wealthy. You never owned land or books or fine clothes, but you were necessary. You kept swords sharp, wheels turning, gates swinging, and farms working. The world didn't thank you often, but it moved because of you. You likely won't see 50. Most blacksmiths don't. The damage piles up, lungs blackened from years of smoke, joints ground down like iron on stone, heart worn out from constant heat and effort.